Hello, everyone. We got some rather interesting news that just crossed. I wanted to share with you, just breaking right now. Another candidate has dropped out, a candidate that wasn't actually really performing that well, but did carry a lot of weight, so to speak. Chris Christie is saying, sayonara, I'm out. He is no longer in the race, if he ever was, for the Republican ticket. Listen, I mean, that's not so surprising, but this next little bit I'm going to show you, it is a little something, right? Because you're all supposed to be on one team, right? But Chris Christie, he must have quite the ego because he's a little fragile right now. He's a little upset that he's out. He can't understand why the big money is backing Nikki Haley over him. We got to talk about that one, by the way, because the big money is backing Nikki Haley right now. Originally it was Ron DeSantis, now it's Nikki Haley. And I think he was just kind of always there to play the attack dog. So he's not so happy about it. Chris Christie caught on tape on leaked audio up in Windham, New Hampshire, my home state, at a town hall meeting, just sort of speaking extemporaneously and trying to make the point that Nikki Haley has no chance in HELL. Watch him.
People don't want to hear it, Wayne. Mm-hmm. They don't want to hear it. We know we're right, but they don't want to hear it.
Right.
And there's, we couldn't have been any clearer.
Right.
We couldn't have been any more direct or worked any harder. So,
and let's not forget she spent $68 million.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent like
when you give land to China and places like that.
Yeah, that's what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, she spent $68 million so far, just on TV. Spent $68 million so far, $59 million by DeSantis, and we spent 12. I mean, who's punching above their weight and who's getting a return on their investment, And she's going to get smoked. And you and I both know it. She's not up to this.
She hasn't even been
And she's still 20 points behind Trump in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
And he's still going to carry Iowa, right?
Yes. Always. I talked to DeSantis called me, petrified that I would.
He's probably getting out after Iowa.
Well,
Yeah, I think DeSantis is getting out after Iowa. I kind of wonder if they're going to force DeSantis out before Iowa. I kind of wondered to a certain extent if Chris Christie was kind of forced out. I mean, he's bitter because he's like, hey, look, I'm pulling way above my weight here. I've hardly spent any money. And look at how much she's spent. He's got a point there. Look at how much DeSantis has spent. He's got a point there. And I'm doing pretty well considering. But, pretty well is not enough to actually win. And I don't think any of these people ultimately, at the end of the day, are going to win. I think that there's big money out there trying, hoping, praying, can we get anybody but Trump? Anybody but Trump. And so they tried DeSantis. I could have told them that was a no-go. Nothing against DeSantis, by the way. I like a lot of the things he's done. I like a lot of his policies. I don't like a lot of the things he's done as well. I mean, he's not perfect. No one is. But what I would say about DeSantis is that he made the mistake of trying to run to the right of Trump, of all things. So that wasn't going to work. He didn't come across as likable. You've heard me say that before. And Nikki Haley's problem is she's kind of trying to be something to everyone. Some of the things that she is saying sound like, I don't know, maybe they ought to be coming out of Joe Biden's mouth, Barack Obama's mouth, Michelle Obama's mouth. There was a clip I played for you guys the other day. She was on CNN talking about the importance of making sure that we try to bring everyone here from Gaza that wants to come here. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'll have to play it again for you tomorrow because that was really, I think, her perhaps misspeaking. I mean, that's me being generous, right? Maybe she just didn't really get it. She was on the spot. I don't know, but there was another clip that made the rounds the other day where, again, she sounded far more like a Democrat than a Republican. Maybe that is the strategy. Who knows? DeSantis was like, I'll go to the right of him. And Nikki Haley's like, I'll go to the left of him. And then maybe we can get some more people. But you know what? As you heard the person saying, if you're just joining us, we're talking about Chris Christie and that leaked audio as he drops out of the race in New Hampshire, Windham, New Hampshire, where he was just doing a town hall. I mean, wow. He's bitter. He's mad. And so he's putting it all out there. It's just not fair. You know what? Politics is not fair. And I got to say, I think Chris Christie was hired effectively to be the attack dog. He's kind of bitter about her TV stuff. I guess he hasn't gotten the memo. Like, TV is just not all it, right? Look at what Vivek is doing, right? Vivek is actually really, really smart. And he's a campaigner, I think, for sort of this new age. Trump has been smart as well about all of this. So Vivek, he's out there on social media. He had a take on this, which isn't entirely dissimilar to mine, although he may be a little bit more full-on conspiratorial about it. His theory, I'll share with you, and he wrote this out. His theory is that, number one, they wanted anybody they could get that wouldn't be Trump, and they just figured, okay, if we throw a lot of money at this person, no matter how inept they may be on the public stage or how sort of inexperienced they are in terms of the policy, if we just throw money at them, then they'll get to the finish line and they will beat Trump. When they realized that wasn't working, his suggestion is that Chris Christie was pushed aside in order to help Nikki Haley make a run for it in New Hampshire. If that's the case, she's still got a really, really long ways to go, because just picking up some votes from Chris Christie is not going to do it. My recommendation would be, if the big money wants Nikki, they got to actually get Ron DeSantis out of the race as well, because he's, I think, number 3. So then maybe you could collect a few more votes. But New Hampshire is a different kind of place than Iowa, which is a very different kind of place than South Carolina. I know, I was born and raised in New Hampshire. We have a joke in New Hampshire. I'll tell it to you. And the reason it's kind of funny is that it's entirely true. Like, one farmer says to another farmer, who are you going to vote for? And the other farmer says, well, I don't know. I've only met each of the candidates 3 times. And that is the truth. That is the truth about New Hampshire. We take our politics very, very seriously. And people are committed. And by the way, a lot can change. A lot can change in the days preceding an election, because New Hampshire voters, they like to keep their mind very, very open. So that said, the distance, shall we say, between where Nikki Haley is and where Donald Trump is, it's not enough to really close the gap, even if DeSantis got out of the race. I mean, you might have more of a race at that point, but I still think it becomes incredibly difficult for her to get there. And her challenge, if you would, is that she is perceived, as Vivek suggests, to be that establishment candidate. And so the more you're sort of tied to that establishment, I think the more everyday voters feel like, okay, well, that's not for me. Because the establishment isn't looking out for me. The establishment is looking out for itself. And corporate interests and the status quo and deep state, you know the drill, on and on and on. And so that's effectively become her challenge. And I'm not so sure she can really overcome it, because I think in some ways, you know, she was at the UN, blah, blah, blah. She's got a lot of that status wrapped around her, for better or for worse. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, we need more people that come from the business world. We need more people that actually have real life experience and have done real things. It's one of the reasons I thought Vivek was really interesting. Now, again, he's not going to get there because Donald Trump is out so far in front. And I also think Vivek still has a ways to go. I mean, again, I say this as a fan, but he still has a ways to go. And he'll probably get there eventually, but yeah, he's going to sort of drink a little less coffee, lighten up, have a sense of humor, be a little more self-deprecating, you know, all of that good stuff. Again, he can do it, but it can't seem artificial. It has to seem real. And that's what Trump had and has going for him in a way that is really unlike anything that we have seen in modern day politics, except for the fact that, don't forget, like, as much as we all despised his policies, Barack Obama was pretty good on stage. As much as we despised his character, Bill Clinton was pretty good on stage. Ronald Reagan was obviously dynamite on stage. And then you got Donald Trump. And so he's fantastic on stage, and he relates to people in a way that is very, very different than anyone else in the political space. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, you have a very, very nervous Democrat Party. A very nervous Democrat Party. But Chris Christie is saying it right here. Nikki Haley is gonna get smoked. Let's listen again.
people don't want to hear it, Wayne. They don't want to hear it. We know we're right, but they don't want to hear it.
Right.
And there's, we couldn't have been any clearer.
Right.
We couldn't have been any more direct or worked any harder. So,
And let's not forget she spent $68 million.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
we spent like.
Well, when you give land to China and places like that.
Yeah,
she's
that's
gonna-
what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, she spent 68 million so far, just on TV. Spent 68 million so far, 59 million by DeSantis, and we spent 12. I mean, who's punching above their weight and who's getting a return on their investment, And she's going to get smoked, and you and I both know it. She's not up to
Because
this.
she hasn't even been
And
challenged.
she's still 20 points behind Trump in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
And he's still going to carry Iowa, right?
Yes, always. I talked to DeSantis called me, petrified that I would.
He's probably getting out after Iowa.
Well,
So he says DeSantis called him. The other guy's saying, hey, he's going to be terrified, But he's probably getting out after Iowa. And then the tape cuts out because somebody figures out, oh my gosh, we're on live mic. I have nightmares about these things. I really do. Like, I'm live with you right now. Good to have you all here. Thanks for coming back. Out of my work clothes, but just had to come on and share this news with you. Anyway, I really do. I'm always like, gosh, be careful of going into the studio because if you press the wrong button and you don't mean to press it, guess what? You're live. And so that's exactly what happened to poor Chris Christie. But I don't know if he feels that bad. He got it all out there. He got his point across and he said she's going to get smoked. Do you agree? We should do a poll question. Will Nikki Haley, I am going to do a poll question. Will Nikki Haley get smoked? Do you agree with Chris Christie? It might be the first thing you agree with Chris Christie on, right? Hey, listen, good to have you here. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share, that you comment, answer my little poll question, which I'm going to put up, and we will talk tomorrow. Thanks for being here, everyone.